Hi, Kevin. It's Sebastian. I'm just recording this private video for you just so that I guess you could have an appreciation for the underlying kind of like underneath the hood behind this website and as to how it was created. You could watch this video if you would like. You don't have to, but if you're curious as to how I made this website for you, um, I didn't use something like Wix or a page builder like Webflow or anything like that. No page builders. Like I just basically coded this line by line by hand while using a library to like a user interface library to basically speed up the work. Now, if you're curious as to how this website was done, just feel free to watch this video. I'm hoping could be used as an educational tool to just maybe share some appreciation for some code, I guess. Um, anyway, okay, so here's the site, as you see. Now, I'm sure you've seen this quite a few times, but it loads pretty quickly. Now, I don't have the fastest internet, but it loads fairly quick. One thing I want to mention about this site that you may not know, we could actually measure the some analytics from Google. So if we go to Google Page Speed Insights, I misspelled. Oh no, never mind. We can make this website slightly faster when we put it up with Cloudflare, which I'm going to do at the very, very end. So it's going to cache everything and just make it a bit more quick. And it's already extremely secure because you're not even using a database. So you definitely don't have to worry about it ever being, you know, mishandled or malware or anything like that because it's extremely secure because it's a static site. But on mobile, the performance is kind of low. But if you look here under mobile and desktop, I have a 100% score on best practices. It's 100%. So I'm using all the best practices when I'm coding. Accessibility could be a little bit better. That could be a bit better. Performance is not too bad, but we could make this a bit better too if we were to run it with Cloudflare. And SEO, well, primarily people will be finding this website by looking up Barbara, Solis, and you, Kevin James. So, like it could be a bit more optimized, but I think though the purpose of it was more for archival purposes rather than marketing purposes. So maybe I would argue that the most important metrics here would be accessibility, best practices, and decent performance. But for an archive, I think it's done pretty well. Now I'm just gonna take a moment to talk a little bit about the code behind this, if you would like to know. Um, so actually, the way I work is that I set up a local environment with whoops. Yeah, I'm just gonna type in terminal. Okay, so the website essentially, when you're doing it by hand, is a series of folders and files within those folders that basically give instructions as to how you want the information to be presented online. So this whole series of folders, as you see here, like this whole folder, I'll go here to my local setup. All these folders and files that you see right here, this one has the content, the layouts, the blog. I just set up but these pages right here and also the partials, all these files within these folders, and this is essentially your website. And it's essentially a bunch of code that is written instruction as to how the website should be presented and how it should function. And the reason why it's extremely secure and quick is because it's a static site. So there's no database or any kind of anything to access on the back end, like a database that could be hacked. It's very secure because there is no database. So it's hard to explain, but it's a static site, meaning like the code is written so that what you see on the front end on this part of the site that you see, the code is written to present information, but it's also running with a static site generator, meaning like the contents of this website is being generated every single time it loads, and it's outputting markdown files that you can edit within Tina CMS. So these are markdown files that you see here. Within this content, MD stands for markdown. And these files, as you can see right here, this under this content, these are the stored files that you could edit within Tina CMS. So these are stored markdown files, which is stored within a repository on GitHub, which is free to store. And basically, these are the files that you were adding all these links to within Tina CMS. So when you were adding links, this is what was being created in the backend automatically. It's quite impressive because it was using Tina CMS to do this. So even though there's no database, basically you were manipulating files in Markdown that were being saved and updated within a Git repository. So maybe a bit tricky to understand that. But let me just go through the files. So like this is Markdown. So these are your pages with stored information. So you can see here it is the eology and the contact page. Well, actually, here's the biography. So here are links that are being saved. This is front matter that you can see right here. And this whole website is actually like a small piece of software that you can see because it's actually run with a content management system, which is Tina CMS that we've been using. And as you can see, like these pages that are here, these are the pages on your website. Now, when I was doing this website, I was actually writing all this code by hand. Like all this code that you see here, I was writing this by hand. And, you know, like it's really like just lines and lines of instructions as to how it should be done. We're not like just dragging anything on the screen or just setting up rules. Like it's all written by hand. And this is like these partials that you see here. These are like little hooks that you're adding into this code where you could take snippets of code and insert them into other places. Here under content, you see this content right here. This is basically inserting the markdown files, which is what you're editing in Tina CMS, and it's inserting it into the code here, which is basically being displayed on the front end of the site, so on what you're seeing. And all these instructions that you see here, like iframe, like for instance, this is actually the YouTube video embed that you see from YouTube. Like this is all the code that I'm actually taking from YouTube and putting it here, and I'm actually setting this as a responsive width. Some of this code is hard coded, meaning like you can't edit parts of the website, meaning like you would actually have to go in here and type this out to change parts of the website. But a lot of the website you can edit, and within this content field or tag, this is written in the Go language. You could actually edit all this content that you see in Markdown right here. So all this can be edited from Tina CMS. Now it's quite impressive the way this works because if you wanted to, you could even have a blog with this sort of thing. With Tina CMS, you could have a blog, which is quite nice, and you could have different pages on a blog if you ever wanted something like that. But let me just show you the local setup. Basically, like your whole website is a series of files and folders that are being stored on a server. And if you look at just the location of the file, so I'm actually going into terminal. This is like old school, but when you were actually writing instructions into a command line, and asking the computer to do very specific instructions. So basically, CD stands for content directory, so I'm actually accessing this directory right here for where this is located on my computer. I click enter, And then what I want to do is I'm running npm run dev. Now this is a script. It's pretty small to see this, but this script that you can see, just, I don't know if you find this fascinating, but like under, let's see, I think it was under Tina. Yeah. No, not here. Yeah, so yeah, I was writing all this too, by the way. Just give me a sec. Where would I have this script written? I think it was under Hugo. No. Package.json. Yeah, here we go. So we have scripts. And these scripts are basically written for npm, I believe, or like some kind of package manager. So I have these scripts written, so when I run npm run dev or npm run build, I'm outputting certain commands in the terminal, which is basically a command line interface, and like you're just adding in commands into your computer as to how you want to set up your environments. So if I run npm run dev, it's going to set up my local environment. So basically my local environment is npm run dev is my local environment. So when I type in that command, it's going to hook up with Tina Cloud, which is basically so your website is basically stored in a Git repository. So it's like you have storing your website within a service that stores your files online. And then Tina Cloud is kind of interacting with that. So when you save changes within Tina, it's going to update that repository. But this is actually a local setup. So within this local setup, this is just what's on my computer. So if I open up this link right here and go to localhost 1313, this is actually a local environment that I have set up. And look how quickly these pages load. Like this is as quick as it'll ever get, because this is not actually on the internet. So this is just on my local computer. So I'm just accessing everything on my computer, and I could just work super quick and so on. And I could have everything set up here. So if I go to admin, you can see that we actually have a local environment set up. So you are currently in local mode. And you can see that on these pages, we can actually edit these pages, and you see what you're editing in the back end on the live site by editing all these links. So that's all a local setup. So this is essentially an interface where you could interface with the code and change these markdown files. So you can see the extension is markdown. So when you're updating these files, it's actually updating the code in the folders and uploading those changes to GitHub automatically, where the website will refresh and give you the latest updates. So that's basically a local setup. So the way it works is that I have a GitHub desktop. Now you'll notice that like when we run a local environment, it's actually changing the URLs here. So it's changing the links. So actually what I would do is every time I'm done with my local environment setup, I run npm run build. So that builds that kind of sets up all the changes for the production environment, so the actual live website. And it's actually hooking in with Tina Cloud, which is taking information from my env file, which is sensitive information, and how do I explain this? Connecting it with Tina Cloud so that the CMS, so the content management system that is interfacing with Hugo and GitHub, basically it's integrating everything together. It's hard to, I don't know how to explain this. So like basically now everything should be blank. If you see here, like it should be like all empty because it updated. But let me just explain this. So if I go to GitHub, I just want to show you how this works. So this is GitHub, and your files are essentially stored on here as a repository, meaning like your files are stored on this. I don't want to log in because I would have to show your credentials, but your files are stored on GitHub as a repository for storing your files. Now, to distribute them across the internet, we're using something called Vercel. So if you look at Vercel, this is the hosting that we're using for static websites. I promise to not talk like this when I'm dealing with clients, but this is just for fancy, just to like explain to you like what I went through to make this. So like this is a hosting provider so that we're using free hosting for static sites. Now, Tina CMS is a content management system for Markdown and static site generators. So this is basically what we're using. We're using a CMS, which is for Tina for your site. So a CMS stands for Content Management System, and this is managing the content of your site. This is all integrated with Hugo. So Hugo is a static site generator. So basically, the static site generator is basically outputting. It's basically creating a static site for you, but it's also allowing you to generate like content and like with Markdown. So it's a combination of a static site where some of the files that you see, like the Markdown files, can be generated and edited. But with Hugo, it's like recreating the website every single time on when it loads, but it's lightning quick, so you don't even notice that it's doing it. Okay. Now, the contact form, you may think that this requires a backend, like it requires PHP, which is a backend programming language, and a database or something to like administer the form, because it would require like a backend. But actually, what I'm using is called FormSpree, which is custom forms with no server code. So this is what I ended up using, and this is free. So a lot of the solutions I use don't cost almost anything, or are free, and like this is why the project was so affordable. And of course, you had Google Cloud Storage, right? So like you had Google Cloud Storage, which is what we used for the project. So object storage for companies of all sizes, but like this is meant to be, for big projects and that sort of thing. And no, the final thing for your domain, we were going to use, I'm using Hover. So this is to store your domain on your website. And the last thing I'm going to set up when this is all done is I'm going to run it through Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is connect, protect, and build everywhere. So this is like enterprise level stuff, but I call it stuff. Anyway, this adds a whole layer of security on your website, and it caches everything so that everything's going to load super quick. And it's like it also acts as a proxy so that your server will go to like the nearest hosting It'll make your files online go to the nearest server across the world and speed up the load time, and also cache everything so that it'll temporarily save like a snapshot of your website, so that if someone did access it in the past and nothing has changed, they're not going to reload everything from scratch. And also it adds security, so your website is going to be super secure. And this is also free, by the way. Like, you have a free plan as well, which is amazing. So yeah, basically it's a lot of moving parts, but it all worked all together. I was actually, studying how to make this website from a software architect. No joke. If like I look up Tina CMS here, these are some videos I was studying from how to make this website, and this developer is a software architect. So that's where I got my information from. So, Kevin, I hope you appreciate the work. This is basically your local. I'll just show you this. This is your website. Like, it's a bunch of files. Like, it's practically a piece of software. Like, if you look at pages and like. Oh, by the way, I will show you also the library I used to make this website. So I was using something called Material. So if I look under Bootstrap, this is what I was using. mdbootstrap.com. Yeah, except cookies, why not? Anyway, so it's basically a material library and UI components to make the website. I really approached this whole project basically as if I was designing software. So even though it's this very simple site, the methodologies used to make it are not that simple. And it's just, this is why I still think there'll always be a need for some developers to work on projects outside the conventional page builders, because when you have specific requirements, sometimes you need a pretty creative solution for it. So yeah, I just wanted to share this video in case you were curious as to all the moving parts that were part of your website. But overall, I think your website is going to be easy to maintain and manage, and once it's done, it'll just be up there for many years to come, and you'll see that it won't be that expensive to maintain. So this is as much jargon as I want to throw at you, but I hope you appreciate it. It was a pleasure working with you, Kevin. Take care.